Does there exist any God of any religion, in any faith, in any belief that is beholden to do what they're said they would do? Of course, nothing to speak of what said God, said faith, said religions, adherents believe God would do. If there can be found that there is no God that must abide by what he says, if there can be found that there is not a God that thus far has done in truth, completely, fully, without fail, all things that is said he would do, without change. I suppose we can't allow for change, but in that, once you allow for change in one aspect, at any time, any point in time, if you allow that your God can change his mind, then that means your God can always change his mind. And so what is it exactly that you have to hold on to? Once again, assuming that you stay in truth. If you stay in belief, you can always create something. But if you stay in truth and you examine your faith, your belief in truth, you examine your God in truth, your religion, your holy books in truth, what do you come away with? If you intellectually discern such things in truth, you stay constant, even level in truth, what does one come away with? As people experience pain and suffering in this world, as children and babies experience the same pain and suffering as adults, one of religion, one of a God of conscious being with the plan. There is the requirement of an acceptance in some way. An acceptance of that's what God wants to do, or at least that's acceptance of that's what God is allowing. It must be spoken. You must come away with one of those, that God wants it such, or God allows it. And even in God allowing it, is God wanting it. For if he didn't want it, he wouldn't allow it. So it's been allowed for a specific reason. Now, you can come up with a reason for the allowance as such. You can come up with a reason why a recent lady had a baby, and some immediate time after having this baby, she took this baby out in public, in the middle of the street, and set the baby on fire, killed the baby. Of course, you have those who come online and comment and say that God will take care of her and God will punish her. Special place in hell and this and that. Well, it's fine in a sense to believe such. But once again, but if we stay in truth, what we're faced with is one that God allowed it. Yes, God allowed it. God possibly wanted it. We must admit that God wanted going beyond, once again, going on beyond what it is that you want to accept. Because we're not talking about you, we're talking about God. And if we are talking about you, then we're not talking about God, or we are talking about God. But once you admit, once you speak, once you say that God works in mysterious ways, that God has a plan, that it's all about God. And if you are to stay consistent in this fact, stay consistent in the truth of that which you speak, without you changing, because one does not allow for changing of God, one says God doesn't change. And even though there are those adherents and who speak out against science by saying that science is always changing its mind about something. But if you allow, once God doesn't change, so you must allow that God is allowing such. God has a reason for allowing this newborn baby to go through the pain and suffering of being burned alive. You all know what it feels like to be burned, right? Being burned is painful. First degree burn is painful. Second, third, being burned to death. Is anything more painful than that? But God has allowed this, or God wanted it. At the minimum, God has allowed it. For whatever reason. So, once again, going along this line of thought, for those who believe in afterlife, those who believe there is a heaven and a hell, there's something afterward that God is going to give you, is offering to you, is promising to you by way of serving them and loving them and abiding in His word and His deed and this and that. Well, staying in truth, one must admit in truth that the truth is, well, you could die and you can get to those pearly gates. Those gates can open and you can be standing there before God and God can say, oh, you know what? I changed my mind about you. I'm sending you downstairs. One must admit to such. So, the question is, the reasoning, the validating, why one would serve a specific God when there's nothing to give them concrete security. Once again, if they stay in truth, once again, they can believe such, they can ignore. And it's the same manner that people ignore the things that go on in life of being with an abusive spouse, someone who says they love them, constantly abuse them and whatnot. And this and that. One can create within their mind a reasoning for such. And it could be the truth. But once again, the truth is, if your God can change his mind, if your God can allow things to happen, which we can deem shouldn't be allowed to happen, if God can allow pain and suffering to exist, God can do what God wants, then God can send you to hell just for the sake of sending you to hell. Whether you're good or bad. And that's your God that you serve. This is the truth.